Welcome to Buzz on Veterans. I'm your host, Chris Budihas, and joining me virtually is Eric Bohlen with eNeura. Eric, how are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you, Chris. I appreciate it
No.
and glad to be back.
No, it's great to have you back, man. It is exciting what's happening in the medical field. Earlier today, I was talking to a wounded warrior who was here, owns his own company, and just really crazy. We're talking about, unfortunately, some of our casualties that occurred over the last 20 years of war and how medicine has advanced so much that those folks may have passed away in previous wars. And you and I were talking off camera, the impacts of just military service, and then even beyond military service, just occupations in our communities that occur where there's impacts to the brain and quality of life. So can you give the group, number one, let's talk about you. So where are you from, what you do in the military, and then let's kind of dive into eNeura.
I'm here in Raleigh, North Carolina. I was officer in the 82nd Airborne and a couple of stints in Korea. And after I was finished at Fort Bragg, I just stayed a little local, moved about 2 hours up the highway to Raleigh, and tried my hand at the world of pharma and med tech and sales. And that's what brings me to eNeura right now.
That's excellent. So eNeura, what do you guys do?
So eNeura is the manufacturers of the first and only single pulse transcranial magnetic stimulation device, which is a famous way of saying the technology of an MRI in a handheld device that's used to treat migraine and migraine pain, because that's obviously one of the biggest components of veteran care in the VA for obvious reasons.
And so I got to imagine, I mean, we're talking 30-ish, so 333 million Americans in the U.S. I got to imagine at least 2 to 3% suffer from some form of migraine. So, and I imagine, knowing family members that suffer from migraines, I mean, quality of life is a big issue here. So eNeura could be their solution to their pain to increase their quality of life. Have you seen that? What kind of feedback are you getting from either medical providers or from patients?
Well, one of the things with the VA is they've embraced the idea of neurostimulation. So using devices instead of just, giving another medication or a drug to it. So we're accustomed to that, but it used to be just that you would electrically stimulate the pain away. And now using our device and magnetic pulses, you can sort of rewire and forge new neural pathways. So instead of just treating the migraine, you're now treating the underlying cause of it. So whether you've always had migraine or you got it due to a blast injury or TBI, you now have the opportunity to sort of get better. Migraine will never be cured, but you can improve your situation rather than just having to treat it every time you get that pain.
Wow. And so for treatment, do you got to go in a facility, or is this something that the patient's trained on, they can use at home? How does that work?
Yes, so the patient goes home and they get prescribed by their VA provider or community care physician. They're shipped a device, so now they have their own, magnetic device at home that they place on the back of their head.
Yeah.
And just do a pulse at a time. Takes a split second. So whenever they have a migraine, they treat themselves with 4 pulses. Otherwise, they just do 4 pulses twice a day for the prevention. And that's it. So no need to wear anything or spend, 20 minutes using typical neuromodulation. You just hit it, takes about a minute, and it's painless.
That's excellent. And is with eNeura, the device, is it covered by like most insurance? You mentioned VA, so I imagine the VA covers the cost for veterans.
Yes.
So I would imagine most folks, if they have some form of insurance, can get it covered as prescribed by their medical provider. Is that correct?
So with emerging technology, more and more plans are starting to cover magnetic therapy and this particular device. Commercial is a little slower than the VA. The VA is embraced this because they know the importance of magnetic therapy for veterans. But we expect over time, additional plans will come on board and cover this for their migraine patients. Atrium Health outside of Charlotte, for their employees. They're one of the first ones, and Blue Cross Blue Shield of Michigan covers it. So that's something that we'll be working on over time. But the VA is fully embraced the idea of giving this to the veterans in need.
That's excellent. So from a business perspective, you guys are kind of in this, the beginning of the conversation for a growth period to go nationally, if not internationally, correct?
Well, yes, and I think the biggest hurdle to clear is awareness of what magnetic stimulation is versus electrical stimulation. And so using the patient feedback, where we'll get a patient that says, for the first time in my life, I slept 8 hours last night because I didn't have pain, or I haven't had a migraine for 2 months. That's unheard of with other stimulation, the traditional electrical stimulation. So as that increases and more are aware of what this magnetic energy is doing, more will be clamoring for it to cover as an option for their patients, as opposed to medication, opioids, or anything like that.
Yeah. Now it's funny. I'm finishing up a book that's talking about tech in general, where we're at in this manufacturing space, and with our grandfathers, 80 years ago or so, manufacturing was with a wrench and some oil in a someplace in a building with machinery, and now manufacturing, many times it's on, in a production facility with a computer and developing this type of medical technology. So for some folks, it's overcoming that idea, like, yeah, this machine works. And oh, by the way, it's funny, electrical stimulation versus magnetic stimulation, there's a difference, right? So now that education piece, not just with the patient, but I imagine with the providers too, right? They got to understand how this is working and understand that this is not witchcraft. That actually has an impact. So obviously, patient feedback has been critical to for testimony to say, yeah, this changed my life. Because I can only imagine, because I had or have a relative that suffers with migraines, and a couple days out of the month they really can't work because they need to be in a dark room and with their eyes closed, and that quality of life is terrible. So
yeah, and that's the thing is a lot of times people associate migraine with just having a headache, but as you mentioned, a migraine is devastating, and the amount of work hours lost by companies and people just drawing away from their family or not going out because they literally cannot take on more noise, light sensitivity, and the pain. It's a big problem, especially in the military for obvious reasons.
Yes, sir. Hey, so Eric, any closing comments, and then how do folks find eNeura?
So eNeura, as it's spelled, eNeura.com. We got the nice little video of our device and how it works. And if you're a veteran, just talk to your provider about this new magnetic energy and how it treats migraine. If they're not aware of it, have them reach out to me, our company. But you're right. Yes, we're educating providers as we go. Some of them are quick to jump on board, and then others need to know that there's patients out there that want to try something because their migraines are just not being resolved.
That's awesome. Well, hey, Eric, thanks for taking time today. I hope you have a great Veterans Day. Hey. Thanks for your service to our nation, and in your post-military career, your service to our veterans and greater community in the med tech space. This is a magnificent that you're really changing lives for the better here with eNeura. So what we'll do is we'll take eNeura, we'll take your contact information and that for the company, we'll put in our show notes, and we'll make sure we post this out with our video to get it out there across the greater world via the internet. So thanks again, and appreciate you taking time today.
Thank you, Chris. I really appreciate it. It's an honor. Happy Veterans Day.
Good to see you. Happy Veterans Day to you, and we'll stay in touch. Hey folks, if you like what you heard, please check us out. Take a look at our show notes. Check out eNeura. Tell your friends, tell your providers, tell your veterans that are in your life about this great technology that is really increasing the quality of life those that suffer from migraines and significant headaches. And if you like what you heard, please connect with Eric and I on LinkedIn. Check us out. Share share this segment, and we'll see you at our next episode. Live with gratitude.
Operation Barnabas is a veterans ministry, started in 2017 with the purpose of helping our veterans that kind of got left behind.
These people went over and went to war for us, and a lot of their friends didn't come back, and that's a lot of the stuff that we as veterans deal with is there's a lot of people that didn't make it back, and then it's like, why are we here? So and then they isolate.
And they've struggled with addictions, PTSD, suicidal thoughts, those kind of things, helping them get whole again through one-to-one mentorship.
So being able to communicate with them and help them can drastically change their life, can drastically change a family's life. The little that we can do is put our hand out and say, hey, do you want a hand up? Like, we're not giving a hand out. Do you want a hand up? And just be able to be there with them and do life with them and just be able to help them, because, man, they put their life on the line for you and me.